Do you see any of the real Diana in Meghan? Did you?
No.
Really?
No. Sorry.
Picture this. You settle in for your usual evening news, expecting the predictable rhythm of political debates and headline updates. Then, without warning, Piers Morgan holds up a collection of photographs the world has never seen. Images of Meghan Markle that immediately shift the entire conversation.
I don't want to be doing another bloody segment on Meghan Markle and Harry, right?
In that instant, millions of viewers begin to question whether the carefully crafted narrative of a victimized princess might actually be the performance of a lifetime.
So when all the racism claims turned out to be bullshit, the mental health claims were bullshit, all of it was bullshit, designed to damage and attack the royal family, the monarchy, and all of it. And it made me...
Let's be clear about what we're really looking at here. For years, Meghan has cultivated an image of herself as a modest, struggling actress, someone who journaled about empowerment while sipping green juice and navigating Hollywood's challenges.
Once a Soho House basic, always a Soho House basic bitch.
But the truth suggests something entirely different. Her pre-royal life appears less like a humble journey and more like a strategic networking expedition, complete with Soho House memberships, private jet access, and connections to influential figures whose names conveniently vanish from her public storytelling.
Are there any fans of Meghan Markle in tonight? Oh, hang on! There is one lone hand is raised
Subversive.
up here. Actually, that is one more than I expected. I have to be...
Storytelling. And when those photographs hit the screen, that meticulously polished brand didn't just crack, it shattered completely. For someone who insists on absolute transparency, Meghan has mastered the art of concealment. Deleted blogs, scrubbed photographs, vanishing friendships, conveniently revised timelines. The pattern is unmistakable.
It was planned from the beginning. She denied being interested in the royal family, which she totally was. I know someone who knows the ex-husband who said she had a vision board with Prince Harry on it.
And now, the very evidence her public relations team prayed would never surface has exploded into mainstream consciousness. The truth didn't slip through the cracks, it detonated. Here's what makes this moment so powerful. Piers didn't need dramatic music or theatrical presentation. The photographs spoke for themselves, revealing a story far messier than anyone anticipated.
It makes them newsworthy. So you either then ignore what people are talking about and debating and having all the silly stuff about.
So prepare yourself, because if you thought Meghan's departure from royal life was turbulent, wait until you discover what her pre-royal existence actually looked like. The exclusive parties, the calculated power moves, the strategic disappearances. SOA. And the secrets she desperately hoped would remain buried forever.
And she's living the life she probably wanted all along.
Yes.
A life of unparalleled luxury and riches that she got by marrying her handsome British prince. She's living back in the state that she came from.
The studio atmosphere hadn't even settled when Piers Morgan leaned forward with deliberate precision and lifted a series of glossy images that sent shockwaves through the broadcast. Viewers anticipating routine political commentary suddenly found themselves confronting photographs that dismantled Meghan Markle's carefully constructed narrative in a single devastating moment. Piers didn't shout, didn't smirk, didn't embellish. He simply held those pictures with the cold, calculated composure of someone who had been waiting for exactly this opportunity. The internet's response was instantaneous and explosive. These weren't innocent snapshots from a forgotten gathering. They looked like documentary evidence of a lifestyle Meghan never wanted the world to witness, a world drenched in exclusivity, privilege, and access that fundamentally contradicted the soft, focused origin story she repeats in every interview. What made these leaked images so devastating wasn't merely their existence. It was what they revealed about Meghan's life before she became a household name. These weren't casual photographs pulled from someone's old phone. They captured her moving through circles far more exclusive.
You know, this is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, you know, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because that she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed.
Calculated and connected than the struggling TV actress barely making rent image she's promoted for years. In multiple frames, she wasn't tucked away with castmates or casual friends. Instead, she appeared positioned among wealthy men, influential social architects, and Soho House insiders, people who don't extend invitations to just anyone. The lighting, the settings, the body language, everything suggested familiarity, not coincidence. And that's what ignited the internet's fury. If Meghan truly lived modestly, if she genuinely struggled the way her narrative suggests, then how did she gain access to a club so exclusive it allegedly turned away Hollywood's biggest stars? How did she afford the designer outfits visible in those photographs, or fund the international trips, or cultivate relationships with the caliber of people surrounding her? These questions didn't emerge from gossip or speculation. They erupted directly from the visual evidence itself, contradicting nearly every talking point she sold to the public. What's even more revealing is the silence from her legal team, a group famous for launching into action over the smallest perceived misrepresentation. No statement, no correction, no outrage. That silence, especially from someone who battles the press like it's a competitive sport, communicated more than any denial possibly could.
But 57,000 people complained to the television regulator, Ofcom, in the UK. A world record, I'm proud to say, complained about me for not believing Princess Pinocchio. And eventually my boss had said, can you just apologize to Meghan Markle, or you're going to have to, maybe lose your job. I went, I'll take the job option, thanks, I'll leave. And I walked off into the sunset.
But here's the real twist. The most intriguing element wasn't the content of the photographs themselves. It was the identity of the person who allegedly provided them to Piers Morgan. Long before Meghan Markle became a global media phenomenon, she crossed paths with a man who would eventually transform into one of her most vocal critics. Their connection didn't begin with hostility. In fact, Piers often described their initial encounter as genuinely pleasant, even charming. They exchanged friendly messages, shared drinks at a Kensington pub, and Piers genuinely believed a meaningful connection had formed. But that perception shattered within 24 hours when Meghan abruptly cut all communication, vanishing from his inbox without explanation or warning. The timing was particularly brutal. The very next evening, she was photographed dining at Soho House with Prince Harry, stepping into a world of power and influence far beyond anything Piers could offer. That moment planted the seed of a grudge that grew quietly for years before erupting spectacularly on national television. When Meghan's Oprah interview aired, Piers' sharp criticism of her claims triggered a media firestorm that ultimately ended with his departure from Good Morning Britain. Behind the scenes, reports surfaced that Meghan had filed a direct complaint, a move Piers interpreted not as professional disagreement, but as personal betrayal. So when Piers revealed those photographs on live television, it didn't feel random or impulsive. It felt like the culmination of years of accumulated resentment, public rejection, and a deeply personal sense of being manipulated. But even Piers wasn't the most fascinating figure behind this leak. Someone closer to Meghan had even stronger motivation. Long before Meghan married into royalty, one name kept appearing quietly in the background of her ascent. Marcus Anderson, the impeccably connected global membership director of Soho House. While Meghan publicly characterized their relationship as simple friendship, the patterns told a fundamentally different story, one that raised questions even among people familiar with the entertainment industry's networking culture. Marcus wasn't just a companion or casual friend. He functioned more like a shadow architect, appearing in every city Meghan relocated to, from Toronto to London to Los Angeles, as if his career trajectory conveniently aligned with hers at each pivotal moment. And with his position came extraordinary access, not just to exclusive lounges and private parties, but to confidential archives, guest lists, and behind-the-scenes photographs that never reached public view. For someone actively cultivating a specific public identity, having a gatekeeper like Marcus wasn't merely advantageous, it was transformative. Rumors circulated that he wasn't simply a friend, but a strategist, someone who understood precisely how powerful social environments could reposition a modestly famous actress into circles occupied by millionaires, cultural influencers, and eventually royalty itself. Fauf.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001, when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University. According to people, she got started her yachting days, and she never stopped, really. I don't think any of her boyfriends knew about it, but Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
The truly unsettling part? Many of the leaked images Piers showcased appeared to originate from settings only Marcus or someone in his immediate orbit. If that's accurate, it raises a darker possibility. Had someone inside her most trusted inner circle finally decided to expose the truth she'd worked so meticulously to control? As the leaked photographs circulated online, another thread from Meghan's past began resurfacing. The long-whispered yacht rumors that had followed her for years but never fully penetrated mainstream discussion. These stories didn't portray her as a desperate actress scrambling for auditions, but rather as a woman navigating ultra-wealthy invitation-only circles where private yachts functioned as floating networking headquarters for businessmen, social elites, and ambitious actresses seeking opportunities beyond Hollywood's traditional pathways. Several documentaries and investigative writers highlighted a pattern in which rising actresses were flown to exclusive events under the pretense of hospitality, and Meghan's name frequently surfaced in those sections. While some viral photographs claiming to show her on specific yachts were later identified as different women, enough timelines, locations, and anonymous accounts aligned closely enough to sustain the speculation.
Harry, who's that standing next to the Queen? Is that a servant? That's what Harry wrote in his book Spare. How stupid is this man that he actually believes it? Or is it that he wanted to believe?
And that's precisely what fueled the public frenzy. The idea that Meghan's sudden access to elite travel, luxury vacations, and first-class experiences fundamentally didn't match the modest lifestyle she's repeatedly marketed. If she truly struggled financially, how did she afford summers in Mediterranean hotspots? Who funded those trips? Why were some of the same men visible in those older images connected to yacht gatherings known for high-stakes social matchmaking? Just when it seemed the speculation couldn't intensify further, Prince Harry's own memoir unintentionally added explosive fuel to the controversy. When Prince Harry released Spare, he likely intended to present a vulnerable, intimate portrait of their love story, not hand critics a detailed roadmap to the aspects of Meghan's past she preferred to keep carefully obscured. Yet that's precisely what happened. In several passages, Harry casually mentions that Meghan treated Soho House like a personal sanctuary, a place she relied on so extensively it practically functioned as a second home. Oh, he describes their early romantic encounters, private dinners, hidden corners where they met discreetly, staff members who seemed unusually familiar with her routines and preferences. For most couples, these details would feel endearingly romantic. But for Meghan, they exposed a glaring contradiction. She had repeatedly insisted she barely used the club, choosing it only for occasional convenience. Yet Harry's recollections portrayed a woman deeply embedded in that world long before they ever met. That single inconsistency reignited every unanswered question surrounding her meteoric rise. Who funded her exclusive memberships? How did she gain such profound access to a club notorious for rejecting even top-tier celebrities? Why were her social circles so polished, so affluent, so strategically interconnected?
She'd been a Deal or No Deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits, it was on her yachting trip.
When critics connected those memoir details to the leaked photographs Piers displayed, the narrative took an even sharper, more damaging turn. Because Meghan's loudest response to all of this scrutiny was absolute, calculated silence. For a public figure who has constructed an entire brand around controlling her narrative with precision, Meghan's reaction to the leaked images, or rather her complete absence of any reaction, became the loudest alarm signal of all. This is the same woman who took major publications to court over a private letter, who issued rapid-fire statements over misquotations, lighting choices in photographs, even podcast misunderstandings. Yet when images emerged that allegedly contradicted the very foundation of the story she's told the world for years, Meghan didn't release a denial, a clarification, or even the typical sources close to Meghan rebuttal. Instead, she retreated behind a wall of silence so strategic it almost felt like confirmation. The public noticed immediately. If the photographs were fabricated, why not expose them? If they were misrepresented, why not correct the record? Her team has never hesitated to challenge narratives far less damaging than this revelation. The sudden silence created a vacuum that exploded with speculation and conspiracy theories. Media analysts pointed out that responding might inadvertently authenticate the images, while others suggested the Sussex public relations machinery was overwhelmed, desperately trying to calculate whether the greater risk was addressing the leaks or ignoring them entirely. But ignoring them didn't neutralize the controversy, it magnified the mystery exponentially. The deeper the public investigated Meghan's documented history, the more a disturbing pattern emerged. A pattern of selective storytelling, strategic reinvention, and carefully curated omissions that extended far beyond a handful of leaked photographs. Long before she stepped into royal life, Meghan had already rewritten herself multiple times, shedding previous identities like discarded costumes whenever they no longer served her evolving ambitions. Her early blogging era vanished almost overnight, along with countless references to relationships, friendships, and lifestyle choices that clashed fundamentally with her polished Duchess persona. Hollywood colleagues quietly noted how swiftly she distanced herself once new opportunities emerged, while former boyfriends described abrupt endings that mirrored Piers Morgan's ghosting experience with unsettling precision. Even the circles she once thrived in, fashion bloggers, wellness influencers, Toronto socialites, dissolved from her orbit without explanation or acknowledgement. Each reinvention arrived with a freshly crafted narrative designed to replace the previous one, always centered on struggle, determination, and humble beginnings. But the cracks revealed themselves every time an old photograph surfaced, every time a timeline shifted unexpectedly, every time her own words contradicted previous public statements. The Soho House era, more than any other chapter, refused to stay buried because it represented a version of Meghan that simply couldn't coexist with the ordinary girl who fell in love with a prince storyline. The exclusivity, the glamour, the influential connections, none of it aligned with the image she continues promoting. And that's exactly why these leaks felt fundamentally different. They weren't just embarrassing snapshots from an awkward phase. They were undeniable reminders that Meghan's past isn't missing. It's been meticulously edited, carefully curated, strategically erased. And once those edits begin unraveling, the entire narrative risks complete collapse. As this latest wave of leaked photographs, resurfaced connections, and inconvenient contradictions sweeps across the internet, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Meghan Markle's past isn't haunting her because people are obsessed with gossip or celebrity culture. It's haunting her because none of her carefully constructed reinventions ever fully erased the version of herself she hoped the world would forget. Every unanswered question, every strategic silence, every fragment of an untold chapter only fuels deeper curiosity and more intense scrutiny. While Piers Morgan's on-air revelation may have initially cracked open the door, it's the patterns behind that door, the shifting stories, the vanished friends, the luxury access disguised as struggle that keep millions of people watching, analyzing, and demanding answers about what else remains hidden. Whether Meghan ever directly addresses these leaks or continues relying on calculated silence, the conversation isn't slowing down. In fact, it's growing exponentially louder. And if you want to understand exactly how deep this controversy extends, especially regarding the tension within her own family, you need to watch our next investigation, where Meghan is exposed as Thomas Jr. confronts her on camera for abandoning their ailing father. It connects directly to everything we've uncovered today and adds a layer of emotional devastation you won't believe.